Chapter 69. I was standing in the training field, exchanging glares with Class 1A. We had already changed our attires to gym wear, and all that was left was to test them. Okay, let's steal this. Momo's quirk for myself, I thought to myself as I had my hands in my pocket. Bakugo's quirk could be good for lower realms. Half ice, half cold. He's good. Izuku aims for nothing. The pink cutie has a nice quirk. Frog girl, no offense, your quirk is only good for deep throating. Aizawa was on the side, holding a timer in his hand. He said, "You have 10 minutes to take him down." Okay, start. I stared at the 20 students. Mineta was standing behind everyone, as if he had given up already. I thought that it might be a good chance, not only to get their DNA samples, but to find out who the spy was. With the photographic memory the Sharingan gave me, and the recorded scene at the cafeteria when everyone freaked out, I'd be able to see who was the spy, or at least have a good suspect. To do that, I needed to make Class 1A students freak out, and then I'd compare their expressions to the memory of the day UA barrier had been breached. It was the smartest thing to do. The first one to come at me was Bakugo, snarling and hissing. He cracked his wrists as he ran toward me, seeming ready to prove his worth. "I've seen your performance at the sports festivals. You aim for nothing." Like my cultivator ancestors say, I stared at him approaching me. He aimed his hand at me, releasing a large explosion capable of destroying a house easily. It seemed that he went with max effort from the start. A cloud of smoke rose. A gust of wind dissipated the dust cloud, revealing me standing without a scratch. The only thing that had taken damage was my hygiene by being exposed to dust. "You dare?" I said, slapping him across the face, sending him flying toward his class, who jumped out of the way, except for a green-haired boy who held him from falling. He too was pushed along by the force of the flying body of Bakugo. The most important part to note was that with that slap, I had taken a few hair strands from him. Also, if you ask me why I didn't act gently with him, my answer would be because he had been rude to me. I believe that Bakugo had that kind of attitude because he'd always gotten away with it. With stunned expressions on most faces, everyone stared at me, seeming to have realized what happened. I had just taken down one of their strongest boys with a single slap. A blue laser beam flew at me with speed like none other. I quickly activated my aura, reflecting it. The one who had shot me was an average-height boy with blonde hair, blue eyes, and the features of a native Frenchman. He had a nervous smile across his face, a drip of sweat coming down his face. Okay, he's the primary suspect, I thought. A rich-looking French guy. At that time, he wasn't nervous at all, and he seemed to be playing along with the alarm bell. Just to make sure, let's see his real face when he freaks out. Pointing my finger at him, I made it glow white. The French guy's lips pursed into a tight frown. His eyes opened widely, and his body was shaking. Definitely not the same reaction he had during the villain attack and the alarm bell. "I'll scan him with the Sharingan once I have time." I smirked and shook my finger, pretending to be making a bad joke. A few light steps, barely audible, of what I assumed to be an invisible woman, came from behind. "No need to wet your pants." I was joking, I teased, wrapping my arm around the invisible figure's shoulder as I turned to my side around. The skin was smooth, soft, giving me a strange feeling. My fingers played with the long hair, and then I realized that I was cupping a C-sized breast, definitely smaller than Nijire's. What was I doing? Hold on. She wasn't wearing clothes. I quickly retrieved my hand, pulling a hair from it. "You can see me?" came a feminine yelp. She seemed dazed and dazzled at the same time. "No, my senses are strong," I said, "so, sit on the side. You're not good for direct combat." "Okay," she replied, walking away. I could sense that she got shy. She hadn't even pointed out the fact that she had been naked. I then turned to the remaining members of Class 1A, saying, "Who wants to give me a try?" They looked at each other. The first one to dash at me was a large-breasted, pink-haired, pink-skinned woman. Her figure, albeit alien-like, had its charms. She waved her hand at me, releasing some sort of ice. I dodged, appearing behind her and pulling a strand of her hair. She held her head in pain as she fell on her, but when I kicked slightly to her knee, she then heaved a sigh, muttering, Thought I'd get slapped. Shall we get serious now? I mused, looking at the rest. I'm not going to wait for you to attack me forever. With that being said, I vanished and reappeared many times in front of them, taking a few hair strands before appearing next to Aizawa, ignoring the dazing glances that darted left and right looking for me. I think that I don't need to prove anything more to them, I said. But it's good for them to learn a lesson in humility, especially that blondie. That's my intention all along. Thank you for not hurting anyone seriously, Aizawa said, inhaling deeply. You're welcome, I replied, quickly putting the hair strands in my system. I then put my hand on Aizawa's shoulder, taking a hair strand that was there. Overhaul's quirk had been on my mind to get since it would give me the ability to one-shot any guy by touch. However, Aizawa's quirk would allow me to disable anyone's quirk, which would make them almost as normal human beings. Even All Might would stand no chance against me if I had Eraserhead's quirk on me. I could always use one of the 10 requests I owned from Orochimaru. He could recreate an Eraserhead quirk for me. Wait, it's not over, said a deep voice. When I turned my head, I saw that half-ice, half-fire kid looking at me with a challenging glare. From his foot, a huge chunk of ice appeared, its height rivaling a small building. I knew that this wasn't the max of his ability, as he, in the future, would be able to stop someone flying away at the height of a skyscraper. Endeavor's son, I addressed him. I believe that it has been over since I got your hair. That doesn't count, he replied dismissively, and I'm Shoto. He seemed not to like the way I addressed him as Endeavor's son. Right. He hated his old man at this point in time. What do you want, kiddo? I asked gently. Fight me with all your might. Use even that fire of yours, said Shoto, his eyes full of determination to put my fire to the test. Weaving a series of hand signs so quickly that no one was able to see them, I inhaled deeply. I was planning on giving him an attack that he could handle. I then exhaled a huge fireball of 3 by 3 by 3 cubic meters in his direction. Shoto scowled at it, and he pressed with his foot. A thick ice wall of 5 meters height and a few meters depth appeared, taking the fire jutsu and exploding against it. A thick steam rose from the wall. Using that as a chance, I snuck up on him and appeared behind him, giving his neck a quick chop that put him to sleep. I then reappeared next to Aizawa, ignoring what was happening in the background. Anyway, as I was saying, you're welcome, but there's a place that I have to be in, I said. A place? You mean your class, he said sternly. I was planning to go to another city as soon as the lesson was over since there's a hero license test. But I didn't have to answer as a giant figure appeared between us. All Might, with all his bulging muscle, smiled at me. Ready to go, young Kenshiro, he shouted. Go where? I asked confusingly. It's the beginning of the day. You can skip class. We're going now, All Might smiled. To get your license. Chapter 70. I looked at the small buildings as I passed by them, ambling at the speed of the wind. Next to me, All Might appeared, flying temporarily next to me and saying, You can fly. Your quirk is amazing. I have done that as well when I got into USJ, I commented. Shouldn't be surprising. Still, your quirk has many applications, he replied. Nijire's quirk allows her to fly, and she has huge destructive power. But can she heal? He replied. Oh yeah, I nodded. Huh. All Might narrowed his eyebrow, confused. She can heal my broken heart, I said, thumbing at my heart. She definitely could heal me mentally and physically. The gravity pulled All Might down, but with a kick to the air below him, he pushed himself next to me and laughed. You must be enjoying your youth, he said, smiling. This reminds me of my time in the USA. But that's a story for another time. Let me guess. Your pickup line always is "What's up, shorty?" I deadpanned. Haha. How did you know? He asked. The only one that line won't work on is MT Lady, I replied. Nice sense of humor, he said, before raising his eyebrows. Look, we've arrived faster than we anticipated. All Might and I landed in the middle of the city, near a huge location with a fake city block and terrain inside it. Thick sex. Pushing a golden hair strand away from her purple eye, Yu Takayama exhaled a long sigh of boredom. She didn't want to do this job, being one of the instructors for the hero test, But she didn't have much choice if she wanted to pay for the public damage fee she had sustained. It's not like she wanted to destroy those buildings, but her quirk made her very big, making it hard to watch for the surroundings. And the fact that the video about the giant villain telling his redemption story to a high scholar had made things worse for her. If people saw things from her point of view, they'd have to understand. The villain wasn't so innocent. Just because he went crazy didn't mean he could do whatever he wanted. You know how many casualties attacking a moving train could cause. Luckily, people like big curves, so I got away with it. But those comments online hurt as heck. It's not like I had that much time to relax since I've been busy working. She sighed heavily as she took a shot from her espresso. People were jerks, and no matter what she did, nobody would believe that she was trying to help. But the only way to distract the masses was by providing a small fan service. There were even people who started a cult to worship her. While walking around the hall, where the hero license candidates came from all across the country, she stumbled upon an unexpected sight. All Might, the #1 hero, was there. Heroes and other fans surrounded him. He was smiling. He signed a few papers for them. Even though he was a busy man saving all the people he could find, All Might could endure with a smile. On the other hand, there was a more interesting sight. A young muscular boy. Even though his face had changed a bit and matured, she could never forget the shape of his muscles. He had been there when she had taken the giant down. You smirked. Well, look who came to the test. She would be lying if she said she didn't have a small quarrel against him. Although there were no hard feelings, she thought it would be fun to tease him a bit. Maybe focusing on him and making him worried to the extent that he'd give up the test. She knew it wasn't his fault, but she needed a small break. As she was about to assert some dominance and tease him, she stopped when she saw the representative of the Hero Commission stand in front of Kenshiro, if she didn't get his name wrong. The representative bowed his head slightly, saying, "Mr. Kenshiro, we have been expecting you," said the Hero Commission representative. You narrowed her eyebrow. Those guys were never the type to act so respectful to heroes who weren't in the top 3. And yes, she wasn't talking about the top 10. That's how full of themselves the Hero Commission was. She had heard some rumors about them, that if a hero started straying, they would vanish without a trace. She didn't believe those rumors, but it proved how scary they were. Learn some manners after my friends paid your president a visit. Kenshiro scoffed and crossed his arms. How's she doing?
Fine.
Just a little bit sad. She asked me to give you this. The representative went to his office, grabbed a few flowers, and a box of expensive chocolate. She says she's sorry that you had to go through this for a misunderstanding, and she hoped that you can reconsider our offer with the Superman shot. Listen, nothing personal between you and me, so I won't treat you badly. Kenshiro patted him on the shoulder. You can eat those, or give them to your wife. I won't snitch. But tell your boss that my decision won't change this fast. She has to put a little bit more effort when she tries to pressure me into giving up my rights, don't you think? Wait, that must be the owner of Snake Biotech. All her friends who had bought his stocks got increased wealth. You remembered her bank account. It was near zero. She then looked at Kenshiro, a young guy full of muscles and testosterone. His bank account should exceed even Endeavor's agency. Guess I found my future husband. Not going to live broke forever, she smiled widely. In front of her was what most girls would call husband material.
Thick sex.
I suddenly felt a shiver in my spine, not knowing what's happening in the background. Was the Hero Commission plotting something? Anyway, I needed to give them some false hope as I needed to get the license quickly. They may even give me some privileges. I patted the Hero Commission agent on the shoulder before giving him the flowers and the chocolate back. Suddenly, I felt a soft surface hitting my shoulder. A couple of large breasts did. I turned my head to see a blonde woman around 160 centimeters in a tight costume. Those curves. I know them. I had recorded them with Sharingan once. The shiver on my spine went down further. Oops, my mistake. She looked at my face with her purple eyes and smiled, placing her hand on my triceps. Didn't see you there. Is she hitting on me? Maybe. Maybe not. But I don't want cheating drama in my life with everything going on, I thought. She's good looking, but I'm here on a mission, and I'm soon to be a married man. As tempting as it was, I'd never break my girl's heart. It's okay, I said, pulling my arm a bit. but her hand still had a grip on me. I've even pulled her that her chest hit my arm. You can leave me now. Sure, she said, letting go. Just let me pass by. She got in between me and the agent, her butt cheeks brushing against my crotch. All Might, nonplussed, I turned to All Might. Did you see that? My self-esteem was about to skyrocket. She bumped into you by accident. Is there something wrong? He asked. No, nothing. Maybe it's just an accident, and I'm just overestimating myself. I sighed. I'm just an average-looking person. Nothing special about me. I didn't want to get full of myself. Everyone, echoed a voice through a mic, please, come to the test center. Your test will begin soon. Chapter 71. We were moved into a large test site at the edge of a pseudo-city. I was standing there in my hero costume, which consisted of a simple outfit, a bulletproof leather jacket, black leather pants, and a shirt that showcased my bulging muscles. Taking a deep breath, I looked around, while hearing the examiner's voice echoing through the mic. For the first test, we're having a rescue dummy test. The scenario is that a bomb has exploded in the city. People are hurt, and you need to save them, said the examiner. Wow, that sounded way easier than the test in the canon. There wouldn't be much elimination then, and it didn't seem that there were actors participating in this. If I played as a true hero would, showing care for the dummies, then I'd get a good score. I would then have my license, a free license to beat anyone that I didn't like. Everyone started running to the city as the buildings collapsed. They felt surreal when they collapsed. Surely, they had enough money to spare to build cities and destroy them. I floated in the air and went along with everyone else. With my Sharingan activated, I had a better vision of the situation and could locate where the dummies were, under the rubble and in narrow paths that would be hard to notice. There were even details that one could miss, such as small blood droplets or tiny footprints. I appreciated the examiner's attention to detail. I scrolled around the test field. With my chi around me, I pointed at one collapsed group of rocks, channeling my chi there. At my current level, I could control air. Not only could I fly, but I could also make things around me fly, though it was limited to a certain weight and unmoving objects. The rocks and the glass flew out of the way, revealing a dummy of a guy who was hiding under the table. I picked him up onto my shoulder. I then scanned the dummy for any injuries. Finding that it was unharmed, I placed it in a corner, as if it were a rescued person who should go away on his own. Who the heck gets out of that uninjured? I thought to myself as I went to another location, picking up another dummy who had a line drawn next to the heart. Maybe it was their way of telling us that the heart wasn't beating. They want to see if I know first aid, I thought. We studied these in school, so it wasn't a problem. I applied pressure to the heart many times. The line surprisingly changed into a wave like on its own. In this world, these things weren't surprising, so I didn't hold on to logic. You know, one of the things I realized in this world was that my previous life physics degree didn't work. For example, there was nothing such as the law of mass conservation here. I flew with the dummy to a mini hospital on the sides, where I found doctors and nurses waiting for the candidates. It didn't feel like a test at all as I felt that I was shooting in a funny movie. I didn't complain since I was here to get a license, not to ask questions. Anyway, I continued with my performance. I had saved a few people back in the day as an intern under Night Eye. I had experience to use. After I was done from saving around 20 dummies, I wiped my forehead. Attention, candidates. Those who scored below 10 points can leave, echoed the examiner's voice. Then, in the sky, a hologram appeared, containing the names of each person and their scores. I was the top one. Good for me, I guess. The examiner's voice echoed again. Now that you've rescued the dummies, the difficulty of the test has increased with a twist. The villains decided to attack the heroes in the middle of the rescue process. Your priority is the rescue. I repeat. Stop the villain wave from reaching the rescue site. With that being said, the ground started shaking. Many people in black skull masks were running down the street, holding fake rifles in their hands. They didn't make the ground shake. But the 20-meter giant woman behind them was the reason. Her costume was as tight as midnight's. She was the one who had bumped into me earlier and made me feel her. I didn't know if it was intentional or not, but it left me teased. Hot damn, I thought as I jumped out of the way of the villains, resting on a near-destroyed building window's ledge. The angle I had chosen was perfect to enjoy the view. Just doing researches. I want to find out what kind of print the Buddha palm would leave, I thought, activating my Sharingan. Although she was moving slowly, I had to perfect my vision. Last time that booty passed by me, it was bigger than my room. Now that I moved into a villa with a bigger room, I had to find out. I shook my head, exhaling a long sigh. This darn high testosterone. I'd already planned my life beforehand with Nijire and already planned to propose for her to move into my house. It's legal in this country. I shouldn't do that under the excuse of research. The aim of the test was simple. We had to stop the villains from reaching the rescue site. And to do that, we had to fight back. The examiners, obviously, would hold back from harming the candidates. I thought it wouldn't be necessary to ruin the experience of the other aspiring heroes by defeating the villains on my own. On another thought, they'd just give up being heroes if all for one spread chaos. Very few wouldn't give up, such as MT Lady. Behind that attention-seeking face/body was a real hero. She was more dependable than most of the heroes. It was something that I couldn't deny. Ho ho, look who we have here. Not going to escape. A large pretty face appeared in front of me. I'd advise you to jerk back a bit, I sighed, pointing my palm at her. Don't want to ruin your face. Ha ha ha. She held her stomach and jerked back, heartily laughing. The ability to bluff the villains is good to have. Unfortunately for her, I wasn't bluffing. A 4-meter small golden palm was released from my hand, hitting her stomach and pushing her gliding across the street. I had to hold back my power and use my weakest technique. She rolled a few times backward. Those who played villains were running out of the road. The last thing one wanted was to get caught by a rolling 100-metric-ton titan. She immediately shrunk to the size of a normal woman. Warned ya, I mumbled, before laying down. I then vanished from my spot, taking advantage of my speed and the examiner's lack of attention to take them down. When everything was over, I stood in the test site, brushing off my coat from the dust. I didn't feel bad for what I did, knowing how fragile most heroes would become. Well, it's not like they would be needed, for I have already decided to create a peaceful era. All I needed now was to start on the Quirk cloning project. The only one I felt bad about was hitting MT Lady. From afar, she stood up slowly, leaning on the wall, holding her stomach. She wasn't laughing anymore, but her hair still looked good. Her clothes got a bit shattered, exposing some skin around her chest and hips. I'd be lying if I said I didn't record the scene with my Sharingan. The test is over. Everyone may go to the waiting room while waiting for the results, echoed the announcer's voice, waking me up from my research. I exhaled a sigh and shook my head before going to the lobby, where I found All Might waiting for me with a smile. I didn't expect you to finish it in one blow, he exclaimed. I used less power than I had used on you, I replied. It's on her for not putting up a guard. Had she crossed her arms, she could have only glided a few meters. But she looked down at me. Literally or figuratively? He asked. You seriously asking? I pondered. It's both. Anyway, no need to wait for the announcement. I have already gotten your hero license. I just asked nicely and they did it for me. No need to thank me. All Might reached into his pocket and grabbed a card before handing it to me. It had my name, my picture, and everything. All Might added, with this, you don't have to hold back against the villains. Aren't you going to advise to be gentle and try to save as many? I said, being a good hero doesn't mean always being a nice hero. Letting a dangerous villain go may cause more harm than good. Thought you'd believe that they can be fixed? I asked. Maybe I had a mixed impression of All Might from DC/Marvel heroes. Not all of them. Help those who seek help. Those who want to watch the world burn, don't hold back against them, said All Might. That's deep. I nodded in agreement. Anyway, let's celebrate back at my place. I've got a few beers. You drink? He asked, raising one eyebrow. I waved my hand and denied. No, it's for the guests. I won't deny the invitation. All Might's face beamed with a smile. Putting my hands on my hips, I turned to the other side. We should arrive in less than an hour if we flew now. All right. With that said, we walked out. I flew to the sky, and All Might took a huge leap. Wait, we have to talk. A large voice that seemed to come from large lungs echoed. I turned my head, seeing empty lady shouting in my direction. Even at the height I was flying at, I could clearly see her features. Was she looking for me to pay compensation, or was she going to scold me for hitting her hard? The last thing I wanted was to get yelled at by a giant. I waved my hand before looking in front of me, increasing my speed. "You forgot your number," echoed a small voice from a distance. Upon hearing the awkwardly phrased sentence, I rubbed my ear. Forgot my phone number? I patted my pocket, and my phone was still there. Turning to All Might, I asked, "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" "Nothing." I shook my head.
Thick sex.
Sugar Daddy's gone. Although he was around 16 to 17, he was totally legal. Yu Takayama stared at the sky and stomped in frustration, causing a mini earthquake. She had missed the chance to get his number. She then winced and held her stomach in ache. She had never thought that some high scholar could beat her like that. What is he? All Might's illegitimate son. He's a tough guy. Too bad I didn't get a taste. She sighed as she shrunk to her normal size before heading to the test center to get her paycheck. Chapter 72. Bob, the policeman, stared at the couple of guys causing havoc around, using their laser-like ability and turning their bodies into metal to cause public damage, frightening the good citizens who had been doing their jobs. Bob would usually reach for his gun and shout something meaningless about how he'd shoot them if they didn't stop. In most cases, the guys would use their quirks to shoot at him first. And in many cases, the gunshot wouldn't work, like in the case of the metal guy. The police would have to wait for heroes to come and deal with them. As a quirkless guy, he had been frustrated most of his life, being looked down upon and even bullied. He had joined the police to fight back, but the odds had never been in his favor. For the first time in his life, he had the power to fight back. Bob and a couple of other policemen took a large leap at the villains, moving at a speed that exceeded the peak of human ability. They surrounded the two, and they pinned them down. Bob smiled, looking at his body. The Superman shot he had taken had proved useful, increasing his speed and power to exceed most of the useless quirks people had around. It totally was worth signing a contract to work for the police for 15 more years. With these shots invading the market, the crime rate would drop drastically. That is, as long as some corrupt politician doesn't sell some of the extra shots on the black market. "Man, it feels good to be able to beat them down," laughed his fellow policeman number 1. "Yeah, I didn't even need help to shackle the metal guy," added policeman number 2. If you ever thought about it, policemen were superior to most of the villains who had gotten power from birth, given their training. Most of the crimes were caused by people relying on their quirks and didn't have any real battle experience. That's what gave the heroes an advantage most of the time.
Thick sex.
Rin was at her office, legs on the table, looking at the screen. The stocks of her company were rising. The phones from many departments, foreign countries were coming non-stop. After the first 100 Superman shots were distributed to the policemen and firefighters, the demands had skyrocketed. Those countries, especially the oil third world countries, were offering billions and billions to get a few shots. And that didn't exclude the rich countries as well. She smiled, thinking that Kin would praise her. She knew it's not normal to be obsessed with someone, but to her, he was someone who gave her life meaning. Seeing his smile made her happy. Seeing his frown made her worried. And hearing him scold her made her cry. It's in her instinct. And for so long, she had been happy. Wasn't that the purpose of life? The thing the drama characters chase on the TV and never find? It's not bad to be alive. But it feels lonely, she exhaled in frustration. Maybe if I go home now, I'll be able to deliver the news to him. The only thing she regretted was not seeing the new future, his reaction to the happy news. I miss Daddy. She flapped her lips. Feeling bored, she picked up her phone and opened some app to watch drama. The drama was about a love story between a cold-hearted clone girl and a young master of a rich family. Rin observed how the male lead turned his head away from staring at the female lead, thinking that it'd be wrong to look at her like that and use her.
No.
It's not wrong. She likes you, idiot, she commented, tears filling her eyes. And then, the female lead stared at him back. Rin gritted her teeth. Tell him how you feel. She didn't know why, but she was hooked on this 3-star rated cheap drama.
Thick sex.
I was at the villa, At night, sitting on the sofa in the backyard. Since it was big and had a natural taste to it with all the trees and grass around, it felt like a good place to relax or celebrate me getting my first hero license. I had invited Nijire to come, but since it was night and later, her mom didn't let her leave. It seemed that I had to use the law and marry her. I'm sure that I'd not get rejected if I bought her mom and dad a mansion. Now on another thought, I was no longer just an average-looking guy. Wow, I grew up so much in the span of a year. All Might opened another beer can and started drinking. You have to enjoy life sometimes, he said, gulping the whole drink in one go. Must have been tough to live without a stomach for a long time? I inquired. Don't remind me. I used to chew my food hundreds. No, thousands of times. Drinking alcohol would have been lethal to me, and it would have made my health worse, he grumbled, before smiling widely. Meeting you and Ari feels like a dream. That little girl, helping me like an angel. Yeah, I replied, opening a can of beer, breaking my word to All Might about not drinking alcohol. Well, a little taste won't harm. But he seemed to be immersed in his drinking not to point that out. Very soon, another woman entered. Rin came and sat next to me. Having a celebration without me already? She grimaced. We worked so hard to get to this point, and you are casting me away? I interrupted her misunderstanding with a pat on her back. It's not a celebration about the project. I just got my hero license, I assured her. Ever since watching drama to learn about how people act, she became dramatic. Oh, so that's why. She smiled as she picked up a beer can, before sipping. She sounded genuinely happy for me. Somehow, I liked having this atmosphere. It made me feel like I had a home to get back to by the end of the day. All Might looked at Rin. He then rubbed his eyes. This beer is good. I'm seeing Night Eye already. Oh, come on. Night Eye isn't as thick as her, I said, wrapping my arm around Rin. I had slowed her metabolism genetically on purpose. Albeit a bit shorter than Night Eye, she had a sore on him in the weight department.
No.
I meant like his sister, the hair color and eye color. Surely, there is a slight difference as her face is feminine and not all bony, All Might said. If I didn't know he was a lonely child, I would have thought she is his sister. Little did All Might know, she was biologically Night Eye's sister. Come on, Rin raised an eyebrow and pointed at herself. I'm pretty. I'm pretty certain he'd think the same, All Might grinned. Pause. This is my goddaughter. Don't even dare to razz her. Yanagi got back to his drink. By the way, how's the product doing? I asked Rin, changing my pose, laying on the sofa. My head naturally landed on Rin's full thighs. They were good. Rin put her hand on my forehead and beamed. We're making history. The demand price is like $10 million, and it's still increasing for military applicants. Although most of the world was at peace, nations knew that military strength was absolute. No one knew when the world was going to change, and buying weapons was necessary to keep the peace. Staying weak would only provoke the stronger to cause trouble. Good girl, I praised. She smiled, making eye contact with me. Ah, damn it. She's seeing my future now, wasn't she? Please, just tell me, she urged, not seeming to be happy with my praise. Tell you what? You've seen the whole thing, I said. She'd seen the future, so there was no point in telling her what I'm about to make. The whole thing I saw was you telling me that I've already known it, she pouted. It's quite frustrating. As long as she didn't mention the words future and so, we're good to talk like this. Well, if you're insisting. I'm thinking of opening the project to clone Quirks, I said, not minding that All Might was hearing that. It's nothing big, but if we clone healing Quirks and gave them to Quirkless people, the hospitals would have less burden. In times where villains are active, healing people should be the aim. Kenshiro Shonen. All Might sniffed as if he sobbed. I thought you're just a man making an honest living, but you're helping people more with your inventions. Was he sobbing? Damn, not having a drink in a long time could do this to a man. It's not my invention, I replied to him. I just happen to have a good team. I see. But you deserve the credit for being the leader who made it happen, he smiled. But please, keep what you heard a secret. I asked him for this favor. Sure, All Might replied, finishing the last can. If I counted how much he drank, it would be around 100 cans. I had to admit, That man was a beast when it came to drinking. Well, he was a beast in every aspect. Anyway, it was good to have a drink with you. But people still need me. After saying that, I squatted and jumped, leaving a deep crack in the ground. Surprisingly, I didn't feel upset about the repair cost. Talking about repairs, I remembered giving overhaul DNA to Orochimaru. I should check on him and see how things had gone. Maybe I could start using a few of the 10 requests I had on him. I needed Aizawa's quirk and Sokai's as well. But let's check on him first. I closed my eyes, activating the system and enjoying the lap pillow. Chat request has been sent. Chat request has been accepted. Chapter 73. What's up, old buddy? I typed into the chat as soon as Orochimaru appeared. Glad to see you're still alive. I'm more than alive, he replied, sounding happier than the last time I left him. He had been full of despair. I thought you died. Did you win? I asked, curious about the alternative universe outcome after Orochimaru had offended a celestial in his world. We haven't fought yet. Either they were threatening or they had forgotten about me. But in case they come, they will find a pleasant surprise waiting for them, he said confidently. So they had just engaged in argument, but it was all bark and no bite. Well, that couldn't be the case. If I were immortal, I wouldn't feel the need to hurry and kill someone. There would be endless time on my hands. Talking about immortality, if I got cultivation resources from the immortal realm, I'd ascend levels easily and rapidly. But to do that, I needed to sell a variety of stuff and achieve many things. The only way to do that was to start selling clone quirks. Too bad for them. I typed mentally. So, say what you're here for. My time is precious, Orochimaru said, seeming to be in a hurry. Before checking on him, I had scrolled through the market and found that he was now selling bloodlines. Uchiha's bloodline, which once was rare, was being sold. That's how I knew that he had been fine. But I had to check up just in case. He was my precious passive income maker. Back to your old attitude, I sighed. Watch your mouth, kid, he replied. That's more like you. I typed, smiling. Now, do you remember our contract? In our contract, there were 3 things. First, he can't clone my quirk or sell it, or sell any variation of it. Breaking that rule could get his account banned from multiverse trading. That was the condition I had made. The second condition, I had forgotten. What was it again? Those beers had surely shaken my memories. Right. It was about the quirk cloning knowledge. How silly of me. I guess I don't remember the things I got, but I never forget the things I still had yet to get. The third condition was that he had to fulfill 10 requests with his new power. I know. 10 requests. State them, he replied nonchalantly. He didn't seem to be offended at all. I need you to get me a few things. But before I start, would it be fine if I ask for a bloodline? I asked. I can make them now, he replied. With his knowledge in the shinobi world, I bet he knew about every good DNA. Okay. First, make me a clone quirk of the hair sample I'm going to send you, I stated before sending him Eraserhead's hair. I knew that having many quirks shorten lifespan, and having many of them would do more harm than good. But I'm a cultivator, so I should have an extra lifespan that could make up for that. Having Eraserhead's quirk felt necessary to be my primary quirk. What does it do? He curiously asked. It deactivates quirks by looking at the owners. It has no use to you, unless you somehow manage to modify it to deactivate something else. I need it for myself. No, I have the power to deactivate any couple of jutsus by looking at the caster and knowing them. But you seem to need to beat someone all-powerful. You have no idea how right you are. I smiled. I'm always right. My smile vanished. Now he was getting cocky. I added, as for the second request, I need you to clone me the modifying quirk I had sent you. Hope you don't start a competition, he asked. As for the second quirk I had in mind, it was Kai's quirk. With that quirk, I could use Orochimaru's quirk cloning knowledge and modern research to find a way to make quirks with a simple touch. Also, it had massive battle implications. And I need you to give me 2 more things. Manjikyu Sharingan and an Uzumaki bloodline. If I got Madara's eyes, then I may be able to use Manjikyu Sharingan without having to go through a life crisis or watching my loved ones die in front of me. I may require training, like Kakashi had done, without having to remember the bad things. As for the Uzumaki's bloodline, it would bless me with more stamina and life force, especially when it came to chakra. Their specialty was shadow clones. With their bloodline, I could use more shadow clones in training and have more natural endurance, which could be cultivated. And keep in mind, using shadow clones with chakra is different when you include your other energies in the equation. Sure, using more shadow clones meant that I'd be using more resources and money to ascend the same level, but it would positively affect cultivation speed without harming my foundation. You know about the Uzumaki? Orochimaru asked, seeming to be amused. I know about your sad backstory, I replied. It may seem like sarcasm, but I know it.
Ah, idiot banat.
Is that all? Yes, I replied. We then concluded our exchanges. The notifications from the system echoed. Exchange complete. You still have 6 requests. After bidding farewell, I opened my eyes to see a couple of modest-sized breasts on my face. Rin had fallen asleep while I was negotiating. I slipped away, carried her, and took her to the room. She must have been diligently working non-stop. I placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket before leaving outside. I then opened the system. I still had a few unconsumed items. I had been hesitating to take them since it would have hurt my brain, and I didn't like to spend my day in a bad mood. But since I'm about to fall asleep anyway, I didn't see any harm in that. Cloning Knowledge by Orochimaru consumed. Uzumaki's Bloodline consumed. Overhaul Quirk consumed. Erasure Quirk consumed. Due to the conflict of quirks, host's lifespan has been reduced by 20%, echoed the system notification in my ear. I scratched my cheek, and I went to chat level 1, asking a question about the average lifespan of Heavenly Realm cultivators. Most said that if they were blessed not to get K***led, they would live as long as 200 years. Once reaching the Void Realm, their lifespan would be around 500 years. So this leaves me with 160 years. I shook my head. The lifespan in the worlds I'm dealing with was a joke. I could extend it by spending a few tens of thousands of coins through means other than cultivation. The real problem I should focus on was how to implant Manjikyu Sharingan into my eyes. It's not like I could pull my eyes out and replace them. My eyes have a deep connection to the brain, and my world had some physical laws to respect. Although they were slightly different from my previous world, they controlled the universe. Or I could master Overhaul Quirk and make it merge with my eye. That would be like 2 stacked Sharingan, and once I awaken mine, God forbid, I'd have the eternal one. After I sorted my thoughts, I sighed in annoyance. I thought about my damaged lifespan, 160 damn years. It would only increase with time. Am I supposed to live just to see everyone around me age and die? Just thinking that Nijire would die and I end up as a pervert old man didn't suit my taste. Maybe. Dual cultivation. I mean, if you have someone at a higher level to partner with, your cultivation level will increase drastically better. I'm rich in that young energy, so it could help her. On the other hand, I'd be sucked dry. It's a win-win. And I don't want her to become a hostage in case the villains find out about her. Having her live in my house will be better for her safety. I can protect her that way. Chapter 74. Shigaraki stared at his teacher, all for one, breathing through his oxygen mask. After his failure to take All Might down, he didn't know how to face him. Shigaraki Tamura had even gotten himself caught by the heroes. Even Kurogiri was taken down by All Might. The last operation was a total failure. I'm sorry about that, Tamura uttered. The sound of weak breath seeking air echoed from the oxygen mask. It's okay, Tamura. You're not omniscient, All for one assured. Contrary to Tamura's expectations, his master seemed to be more amused. He had even shown more interest in that guy, Kenshiro. Tamura would be lying to say that he hadn't interest in him. That guy. They had planned to take him down separately and even prepared 3 relatively weak nomas specifically made for him. But not only did he K***l the nomas, he trapped their associated villains in a cage of fire. He had then flown to USJ from his house at incredible speed. He had saved the white-haired girl by mind confusing the one who held her as a hostage. And in the middle of their fight, he showed enough power to stand against the Nomu and hold him back. He had even switched their appearances, forcing Shigaraki to K***l the Nomu. It was his luck that the Nomu didn't have intelligence, or else Tamura would have died. Our spy says that he managed to take the whole class down on his own without using his abilities on a spar, said All for One with a hint of amusement in his voice. That's right. They had a spy to report every single movement from Class 1A. His purpose is to find them an opening to take down All Might and report 1A movements and schedule. What should we do now, Master? Tamura asked, hands clenching tightly into fists. He had been pissed off, angry at the humiliation he had faced at the USJ. Until now, he couldn't believe how a student in his second year had humiliated them so bad. But the thing was, that student was something All for One had put eyes on. Once they got his quirk, Tamura promised himself he would pay him back. He would humiliate him, decay him slowly and painfully that he would wish for death. We're going to hasten our plan. We'll attack the P*SSY Cats hero team and take Ragdoll, said All for One. Ragdoll had a perfect quirk that could help All for One to move around without the need of his eyes. He could fight back again. With that, he could have a chance to fight back. After that, I'm going to pass you on my quirk, added All for One. But, Master, Tamura had a hint of concern in his voice. If his master passed him his quirk, it meant that his time is limited, and that he's afraid that the heroes would take him down. It meant that he was preparing to pass on the torch to him. Don't worry. I have a copy of it, smiled All for One. You need to be patient if you want to hunt the heroes down. You need to make a good plan. For now, follow me. As you say, Master, Tamura said, before walking to the door and opening it. He put his hands in his pockets, and he walked down the street. He always believed in his master and his plans to be absolute. But Tamura believed that he could do better, and he could take Kenshiro down on his own. The latter only managed to win because he had a trump card. How to beat someone smart. Easy. Be smarter than them. The smart-ass guy must be believing that he's so powerful and immune to defeat. There's a saying, the sea drowns the swimmer, and the road takes down the driver. The better you are, the cockier you get, and the more mistakes you make. Experts' mistakes were deadlier in comparison to amateur mistakes. Now, let's see what opening you'll show, Kenshiro.
Thick sacks.
So, you're saying that the attack you mentioned that day wasn't what happened at the USJ? But there's still another attack, led by a different person. And they delayed their plan now the future changed. I asked Rin, confirming what I had just heard. The attack she had mentioned was something she told me in her first days. But after I dealt with it the curtain way, the future changed. I had, after all, become stronger than the one Rin had seen in that vision. Just by telling me that I'd be attacked by the villains, she had made me stronger. She smiled and teased. You never wanted spoilers, and so I didn't spoil you. Currently, we were at our mansion. I was at her room. It was noon after a long school day, and we're having a small conversation. But by telling me the future, it has changed. So, tell me the new one. I narrowed my eyebrow and sked. Now, she was playing on my nerve. I've told you enough, though, she said nonchalantly. She had developed enough consciousness to know what to tell me and when to tell me without giving me major spoilers in my life. I rubbed my temple. I pondered about what I should do. I asked, according to you, there is still one more attack, led by a pale man who can decay everything. So, what's going to happen? Her face beamed with a smile. Not going to tell you. She surely became affected by all those dramas she'd been watching. How about I play her game instead? Are you teasing me? Or? I faked a sob as I covered my eye. My daughter hates me. I failed as a daddy. No, it's not that. It's if I told you now, you'd take actions early and the future would be uncontrollable. And we won't be ready at time. She rushed and gave me a hug. Don't cry. It's like you taught me in market. If we put too much money early, we'd alert other investors and they could change their decision. It's about timing. I'm not crying really, I replied without much of emotions in my voice. Ken, she pouted, seeming to realize that she'd been tricked. Although she was grown up, she was less than 1 year old. She still had to gain life experience. Anyway, back to Tamura and other villains. I wasn't worried about them. With Aizawa's quirk in me, I could render anyone with a quirk quirkless as long as I don't blink. If Shigaraki was planning to attack me, in my house then, I'd welcome him gladly. In fact, it was a very good chance to interrogate him and see into his memories. I wanted to know the location of all for one. I may be somehow a person who's hesitant to K***lol, but all for one and Nomus were an exception to the list. Besides, I needed all for one's quirk. He was the key for the gold mine that I needed. Having many quirks could harm oneself, but with all for one, it's not the case. Still, according to this line of events, I should at least strengthen Nijire. Her quirk will get stronger if it was cultivated from zero. I looked at my hand. Yesterday, when I had gotten the quirks, I tried to train them. I found that I was a bit better than Aizawa and Overhaul. Usually, it should be way stronger. But I figured that I needed to cultivate the cells of the quirk in my body. The good thing was I didn't need to ascend a new level. I could just recultivate the old levels, which was going to happen rapidly thanks to my shadow clones. Sure, I could extend the limitations those quirks had since I had a strong body that could handle the exhaustion. But to strengthen the quirk itself was a different story. Besides, I could try one Superman shot on myself. It won't increase my strength since I'm beyond that, but it should affect my untrained quirk cells. Suddenly, around 5 shadow clones popped, and their experience invaded my muscle memory. I looked at my hand. The quirk that I had been training was Overhaul's quirk. What are you thinking of doing? Rin asked. You don't know the answer? I asked, amused. She shrugged. You've disabled my quirk. Right. I had tested Aizawa's quirk on her, and I hadn't blinked ever since. Given my cultivation level, I could not blink for a couple of days, and I'd still be fine. But I'm still blinking out of habit sometimes. Teasing the girl who acted like she knew everything was fun for sure, especially after she had teased me. I'm thinking of giving you a step, mommy, I said as I stood up, putting my hand on the chair. What? She jerked back, almost falling from her chair. But you're still young. I focused on my chair. With a simple touch, I could feel the components of the chair. It was like a sixth sense that was hard to explain. I then released my quirk. The chair changed its shape, morphing into a statue of Nijire. What do you think? I said, blinking, releasing Rin's quirk. She stood up next to me and looked at the statue. Can you make one for me? Sure. Anything for my little girl. I then modified it, turning it into Rin. What do you think? I asked for her honest opinion about my SK**LS. I don't know. I'm prettier in person, she said nonchalantly and clicked her tongue. There is room for improvement. I shook my head and decided to focus on what's important. Rin, watch over my family. Before Shigaraki makes a move within 24 hours, tell me the spoilers. AI kin, she said, forming a military salute. Chapter 75. I was at the cafeteria, having lunch with Nijire after a long school day. By the way, I interjected her thoughts. She put her spoon down and looked up at me with her blue eyes. Yes? That cute face. I didn't want it to stress over some silly villains playing in the shadows. Although now wasn't the perfect time, I had to make a move. Do you want to marry me? I asked. She bumped her fist against her chest repeatedly, helping herself swallow whatever she had. I thought you wouldn't bring that up until we graduate, she asked, eyes wide open. Then, a small frown took over her face, air filling her cheeks. You're not joking, are you?
No, Iyasurat.
We've been together for more than a year, and I want to wake up to you every morning. She leaned in, her face getting closer to mine, and she whispered, Are you upset that we didn't have S**X every day? Well, that's a part of it. By that day, she mentioned all the days that she couldn't come to my place because her mom wouldn't let her. Aren't you going to say yes? Instead of answering, I asked, Come on, Kenshiro. This moment must be precious. Where is the ring? Getting on your knees? Horses? Just forget it.
No.
I'm just kidding, Nijire said. It's not like that can happen anyway. My parents would reject the idea, and at our age, we can't marry without turning 20. So, we need permission, and that's impossible. How much do you bet that I can convince them? I smiled and winked. I'll cosplay any character you like, she said, but sure enough, you're going all out? I thought you were the kind of guy who focuses on getting stronger and occasionally forgets things. That's true. I leaned backward and said, Would you believe me if I told you that I discovered a new application of my quirk And that's hard to believe? What is it? I can make people stronger by sleeping with them. She leaned in closer, narrowing her eyes. Who did you make stronger? She said each word slowly and clearly, making me feel a chill. No one yet. I deadpanned. How did you know then? She was asking the right questions. I have a lab team, I replied nonchalantly. Phew. She patted me on the head. That's a good boy. She seemed more relieved at the fact that I didn't sleep with someone else than the fact I could make people stronger by sleeping with them. Honestly, I needed to cultivate her, not just for security reasons, but most importantly, I didn't want to end up alone 60 years later. So, you must be thinking that I'm making that up? I asked, raising an eyebrow. If you want more playtime, I'm down with it, she said, but my family won't accept me getting married. But once we become 20, we'd be entitled to make our own decision. She must be thinking that I was joking about the training way through S*X. Anyway, don't forget about the bed, I reminded. Her hand reached for my cheek, grabbing it up and down. And in exchange, what will you be betting on? Anything you want, I shrugged, full of confidence. If her parents are the only obstacles, then I'd give them something that they can't turn down. Something people in different religions had them sacrifice their parents, themselves, and their children to achieve, the heaven. Deal, she smiled.
Thick sex.
I was standing facing Nijire's parents, a white-haired middle-aged man and a large-breasted blue-haired woman who looked like an older version of Nijire. I had to admit, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. So, you were saying you want to marry my little girl at this age? Her father was the first to speak. This is quite unacceptable. You both are young, and Nijire is just building her career. We've spent a lot of time training her. Her mother shook her head. Sorry to hurt your feelings, but we can't agree to that. Nijire was standing at the door, and she was about to say something. I raised my hand, simply saying, I see. Hope you don't mind me making a call for a second. I then dialed my CEO. Hey, Rin. Listen, the proposal failed, I said, activating the speaker. That's too bad. Many things will be canceled now, she sighed. I sighed as well. Well, we'll get a refund, right? I don't know. For the villa in Paris. The apartment in Las Vegas, that's going to be a bit difficult. But on the other side, we can get the world trip tickets back, the lands we can resell easily or use for our company's research labs. The cars you were going to give as a gift, on the other hand, it's okay. I believe that we can make room in our garage. I don't know. Maybe I'll give them to the neighbors on Halloween. Her parents, who were hearing that, couldn't keep their stoic faces. Honestly, at this stage I'm at now, I didn't care much about money in the real world, but more about the money that I could liquidate. Son, suddenly her mother interjected. I put my phone down and looked at her strangely. Did she just call me son? Her father clapped his hands and smiled warmly at me. Huh. I tilted my head. Seeing how much you love our daughter, and given your generous character, it would be a total waste if we made you separate. Her father came to me and shook my hand. As a father, I'll entrust my daughter to you. Nice doing business with a him. I mean, I'll take care of her, I smiled. I didn't feel like I lost something. With their daughter next to me every morning, I wouldn't have to worry about her safety. As for the amount of money I spent, Rin could earn tens of times that in a single hour with a click on the screen. I hope Nijire doesn't think they sold her, I thought. But contrary to my expectation, I found her sitting next to me instantly, holding my arm. I'm genuinely happy that we can live together, she smiled at me, her blue eyes beaming with stars. The thing I like about her most was her uncontrollable brutal honesty. She was the only one I could let my guard down with, as I could easily read her. Don't forget the bet, I teased. Let's leave that after the wedding, Nijire said, her body shaking quite nervously. You sound excited, I said, hearing her heartbeat already. I didn't think that it would happen until a few years later, she said, staring at her parents, who held each other's hands and were exchanging glances of happiness. I could feel that I'd be getting a new brother-in-law. Nijire, be sure to treat your husband well and obedient, her father said. Don't ruin her personality. The thing I like about her most is how she acts. Don't tamper with that, I said as I looked at Nijire, locking my eyes on her lips. Her eyes twitched, and she signaled to her parents, knowing what I was about to do. But I kissed her anyway, and her cheeks turned red. It had been so long since I saw her blushing like this. I missed that sight. I heard a couple of claps behind me. "Congratulations," said her dad. "So, when is the wedding, and when is the honeymoon?" said her mom. Indirectly, she was asking about when they could receive the gifts. Man, I'm glad that Nijire didn't notice that they basically sold her. It's not like I blamed them, though. If my family received such an offer today, were middle class, they'd have sold me too. Hell, I'd have sold myself. How about 2 weeks later? I asked. Nijire bit her nail. But what about the preparation and all? I wrapped my arm around her. Let me worry about that. Congratulations. Her parents started clapping. We'll be on our way to send the invitations. Wow, you won, Nijire said, placing her hand on her forehead, cheeks turning red. By the way, what character do you want me to cosplay for you? I thought for some time before saying, Invisible Girl. But she wears nothing. Exactly.
Thick sex.
Meanwhile, somewhere else, a pale man held the invitation in his hand. Tamura somehow had gotten his hand at this. He'll show an opening on their wedding night. I wonder who they'll hire as a security team, he muttered, and the invitation paper decayed into nothing. A big innocent smile beamed across his face. Chapter 76. Nijire was at my house, a week after I had proposed to her. She was on my bed, jumping naked, examining the changes the dual cultivation had done to her. Wow, you didn't lie when you said it can make me stronger, Nijire grinned as she floated. Usually, after S*X, she'd be drained, tired, and in a bit of pain. I was a super powerful monster after all. But for the last week, that monster was getting drained out of energy. She's lucky I'm at Heavenly Realm level 5 now. With the massive difference, reaching Earth level will require her no time. I thought to myself, dual cultivation was something unique. The stronger your partner, the quicker you ascend levels. Besides, her training method wasn't focused on foundation, but more on cultivation speed. That usually would be deadly in cultivation worlds, as it had put her on the same level of that one level below her. But in this world, it didn't matter. Currently, Nijire reached the 5th level of chi refining. Although her lifespan didn't increase much, her stamina increased drastically so she could do her ultimate move. Teaching her dual cultivation wasn't a problem. I could do that through Sharingan by putting her in an illusion where she was forced to cultivate. More like a wet dream than actual training. Glad you liked it. I raised a thumb up. Having her stronger had its benefits for me. I could exert more power and didn't have to hold myself. Well, once I get to the 4th level in the system, my power will increase drastically with immortal cultivation resources. By that point, I hope that I wouldn't cause an earthquake whenever I get some action. Reaching the 4th level in the system was going to happen soon in the near future. After I had consumed Orochimaru's knowledge, I shared a bit of it with my scientists about cloning quirks. They were amazed by the researches I provided, and they started working on quirk cloning machines. The good thing about them is that they were injectable. Nijire jumped and landed on my chest, kissing me on the lips. Unlike her usual self who would rest by the side, she took more initiative. Want to have a quick round before school begins? She said. Did I mention that she stayed overnight, and she was allowed to stay? Why not? I shrugged and enjoyed the peaceful moment.
Thick sex.
Kenshiro, what's the solution to this? Pointed Midnight at the board. I opened my eyes and raised my head from the desk, looking at the board. There was a mathematical equation. I didn't know why she was teaching mathematics to the 2nd year while she used to teach history for the 1st year. But again, most heroes don't have to go to college. Being a hero graduated from high school allowed anyone to teach at high school. Being drained of extra energy is surely relaxing. I thought as I went to the board and solved it. That's correct, she nodded approvingly. But why aren't you paying attention as usual? Right, usually I'd pay her curves attention. Didn't you receive the invitation? I asked. Your mind absent because you're planning for a birthday party? She deadpanned. I turned to Nijire and saw her face turning red. She didn't tell anyone about it. My wedding. I said. What? How the hell did he get to marry at this age? Kenshiro, you traitor. Not only are you dating, but you're going to marry. Midnight had her jaw dropped a bit as she stared at me with wide-opened eyes. I know, I was being rude saying that to a woman past her 30s while being her student. She'd be thinking, am I too old now? I was planning to tell you later, I shrugged. Who's the bride? Midnight closed her mouth and asked. You can guess, I replied. Nijire. Right. She sighed. Just don't drop out of school. I then made my way back to my desk, ignoring the gazes of my classmates. But there was a particular one who gave me the gaze that I'm a traitor. It was Tamaki. First you date, now you're marrying. Good for me, I replied, smiling. Life is short anyway. Better start today than tomorrow. After I said that, I lowered my head. Other than waiting, I didn't have much to do now that my shadow clones were training instead of me. My scientists were in the middle of cloning Quirks, and Rin was making money as usual. There was nothing I could do for now.
Thick sex.
Almost another week had passed, leaving me 24 hours before my wedding. My rank had increased as a warrior, breaking from heroic rank to epic rank. As a mage, I'm still in the 4th circle. Nothing major happened. As a cultivator, I was nearing the 6th heavenly level, and that's only thanks to me spending a lot of resources on the shadow clones. Today was a day before my wedding. Just to make sure no one would hate me in the future, I had sent invitations to classmates and others whom I knew. Seriously, what did they create weddings for? Is it for pictures? Is it to feed people? Or is it for the bride and families to show off? I hate this already. I thought as I looked at the mirror, staring at myself wearing a suit for the first time in my life. I'm a muscular dude, so any wrong movement and I could rip it off. The price I have to pay to assure daily fun. Suddenly, my phone rang. I reached into my pocket. Zip and my suit was ruined. I picked up anyway. What's up, Rin? I asked. Since she'd been calling me occasionally and every day, I didn't know if it's about that thing or not. So, I had to pick up and still be calm. You sound to be in a bad mood. A bit nervous, she chuckled. Not really. Anything new? Can't I just call to check on you? You can, I said, and I was about to end the call. Anyway, the villains will attack 24 hours later. I've sent you the details of their attack. Oh, my finger halted, not cutting the call. By this point, they will not change their plans. Anyway, good luck preparing for that, she said dismissively.
Thick sex.
I was at the backyard of my villa, wearing my hero outfit, looking at Nijire, who's going to live permanently with me, and by permanently, I meant for at least 700 years. That'd be my lifespan the next year. Since Japan wasn't particularly a religious country, most weddings were imitations of drama's weddings. You may kiss the bride, said the government agent who was dressed as a priest. With that being said, I looked into Nijire's blue eyes before focusing on her pink lips. I bent a bit, and my lips landed on hers, my hand grabbing her waist. A few claps echoed. Members of the National Diet, politicians, my funded hero commission members, and some military figures were present. After the kiss was done, and the man cosplaying as a priest announced us as husband and wife, everyone came over to congratulate me and take pictures. On the other side were a team of bodyguards. There was something fishy about them. But, if I were honest, in this situation, I felt like a chess master who had anticipated every movement of his opponent. Well, to be more precise, I felt like a chess player who was cheating with the help of a bot that knew every counter. Life wasn't fair. Villains weren't, and definitely not me. A hand tapped my shoulder. Congratulations, Kenshiro-san. It was a military official who said that. Even the military was interested in the Superman shot I was offering. Having opened my business to international trading, had alerted the government of my country. I didn't mind inviting them as it would give me some form of power within the hero society. Anyway, while handling Tamura Shigaraki, I could still do business and please my girl. Multitasking was difficult, but I was a busy man, and I could use my time effectively. Everything will go according to plan. If my plan worked, then I'd not only save Japan, but I'd also have a golden mine. With disgust, Shigaraki Tamura observed how Kenshiro had kissed his fiancée. This corrupt society, he muttered. People like Kenshiro, who had money and hero status, were allowed to bend the law to their side and do as they pleased. Just seeing how many big figures were here, Tamura's belief was affirmed. That belief was the necessity to take down this fake hero society. Currently, Tamura was wearing makeup that changed his pale, cracked skin into a tanned one. Using a walkie-talkie, he walked to the corner and murmured, "Be ready. We'll attack once they get into their room." Affirmative. Positive. After they had obtained information about the people who were hired to become security, Tamura had attacked them and formed a team of villains who took after their appearance. With this, once the poor Kenshiro put his D*CK in that blue-haired girl, he would have his hands on them. He would use Nijire as a hostage to guide Kenshiro to his master. And once they got his quirk, he would toy with them. It would be fun to see what kind of face Kenshiro would make once they got his bitch decaying, slowly and painfully. Tamura turned his head and took a deep breath, calming the deep grudge he had against the heroes.